Oh, boy. Oh, boy. This is good music. I feel like I'm watching a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Shonen Knight, Japanese punk band.
Maybe it was from... It wasn't Kill Bill, maybe? I don't know where we might have heard this. Good stuff. Roosevelt, how are you, sir?
Not too bad, Carl. How you doing, man?
Good, good. What's going on?
I don't have too much longer to hear Bob say, "Get Rominger on the phone." I'm going to miss that, I'll tell you. Look, your first caller was talking about how his friend got pulled over.
Right.
And, and it dawned on me, because of business and other reasons, sometimes I'm just as much a passenger in vehicles nowadays as I am maybe a driver. So what is a passenger's rights when a driver gets pulled over? That's my first thing. And second thing, you always talk about sometimes jury nullification. Would that have worked in the Zimmerman case?
In terms of... Okay, we've got two good questions here. Passengers have all the same rights as the driver, except they're even less free to leave, right?
Oh, true.
But the police can get a passenger, under current status of the law, the police can ask a passenger to get out of the car. And they can ask a passenger for ID if your state requires it. Since we're not required to carry ID here in Pennsylvania, and since you're not driving the car, you need not produce your driver's license or ID. But they can still ask you out of the car. And then separately, if they ask you out of the car and there's some separate and articulable basis to believe you may have a weapon, they can give you a pat-down. And then if there's separate basis for probable cause to arrest you, then, of course, they could arrest you. But a passenger has a lot of rights.
Okay. If you're a passenger and you have a permit to carry and you're carrying on you, do you have to tell them?
You do not.
Okay. So if they tell you to get out the car and they pat you down and they find it, then what?
Then they're going to haul it off of you, and that's when I would tell them I have a permit to carry, because that way that dispels any criminality.
Okay.
Because otherwise, if you don't tell me you have a permit to carry, then the officer certainly has a reasonable basis or an articulable basis to say he has probable cause that you're carrying a firearm loaded in a car, which is a crime, without a permit, right?
That's true. That's a good point.
So he would have probable cause. You would have a defense to it, but you might as well. Why get arrested if you don't have to? The problem with that is before you could show it to him, once he finds the weapon, he's going to just place you under arrest and say, then I searched you pursuant to the arrest, and when I found your marijuana, even though you had an affirmative defense. So maybe telling him, ask you out of the car, and you say, okay, I'm going to get out of the car now, but I just want to let you know I'm a concealed carry permit holder, and I do have a gun strapped to me right now. Then he has a problem because there's no illegality there, right?
Okay.
Or no potential illegality. So I think that's probably your best course of action.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. That's good. Because many times you've talked about what to do when you get pulled over. And when that guy said that, I said, well, what do you do when you're a passenger?
I think if you're a passenger, you just jump out the door and run out through the woods. And the police will come tackle you. But here's the question. What have you done wrong? Yeah, they stopped the driver, not me.
That's true. Of course, if you get pulled over on the bridge, you might be in bad shape for running away.
That Susquehanna's not nearly as deep as I thought it was.
All right. The jury nullification.
Yeah. What do you mean?
You think? Could that have applied?
I mean, a jury can always nullify, okay? And a jury could have nullified for, the fear is that some people would say the jury goes, well, the victim was black and the perpetrator was white, so we're not going to convict no matter what we believe in terms of guilt or innocence. And that would be the wrong kind of jury nullification.
Okay.
That'd be the one we don't want. On the other hand, the jury might have said, well, technically he's guilty, but we don't like the law as it's being applied in this case, so we're not going to follow the law. We're just going to acquit him even though we think he's legally guilty. We don't think he should have to go to jail because we think, wow, the whole thing was screwed up in a bad accident. We're not going to give him any. But I think in this case they did reach the merits of the issue. The one juror who's come out who was originally to convict on second-degree murder says that as she examined the law, she came to the conclusion that because the government failed to prove what his intent was, she was restricted to find him not guilty, even though she originally wanted to.
Okay. Now, how come you don't see more lawyers as jurors, or what do you think about having professional jurors?
The answer is a lot of people have suggested that professional jurors would be a good way to go. But the problem then is they're not really necessarily a jury of your peers. And so we have this tension somehow that we want to be able to just pull local people from the community who might not be co-opted by the system. So, there's always this theory that judges and lawyers and everybody who are in the system may be somehow co-opted, if that makes sense, or at least so loyal to the system that they might make certain decisions that lay people who have no love for the system might not make.
But then it's not necessarily a good idea to have lame people who are so ignorant of the system sometimes.
Right. And that's, of course, that's the theory is that's where the judge is the safety check on the jury. So if the jury goes run away, the judge could then jump in there and say, all right, kids, you got it dead wrong, so I'm going to reverse your verdict. The thing there is, though, he can't reverse a not guilty verdict, even if you were guilty.
Okay. Now, how often do you see judges reversing verdicts?
Not very often.
Okay.
And that's because most of the time it's factual questions, and once a factual question's been decided, the jury's version of the facts are going to carry the day most of the time.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that info there, Carl.
Hey, no problem.
Usual.
All right. Thank you very much, Roosevelt.
All right. Take it easy.
All right. 540-0580. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. Steve, what's going on?
Did you say Steve?
Yes.
Yes. I got a story for you. This might give you a chuckle. I went to my cardiologist's office on Wednesday. New cardiologist. He'd been referred by another cardiologist, and instead of treating me, she starts just chit-chatting with me. And she decides, almost on the spur of the moment, that I'm depressed and I must be suicidal, and she has her staff stall me in a room while they call Spreaker. Well, I won't mention the department.
Okay.
But,
don't mention any names here, but go ahead.
They go get the police department. They bring a 302 warrant and arrest me. Three officers show up, arrest me. They search my knapsack. They find, I carry a handgun in there, but it's not like I was waving it around or anything. They confiscate that. They then transport me by ambulance. And mind you, I'm going in thinking, this is just a doctor's visit.
Right.
I couldn't believe it. And so anyway, I get into the York Hospital. They let me sit there for 3 or 4 hours in the hallway. Someone comes out and says, "Well, we're not signing this, and you're free to go." But what is your take on all this?
Well, I mean, the answer is what made her legitimately think you were depressed? Anything? I mean, you must be having some medical issues, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty busted up. and she said something. I can't remember her words, but it was something to the effect that, how does this make you feel? And I guess I looked down or I didn't answer or something, and she just, went off on this, this whole fantasy of, that, well, somehow I'm going to, kill myself.
Right. Well, only I can tell you is, listen, if she legitimately thought you were, okay, even if she's wrong, but she thought you were,
yeah,
I guess she did the right thing, right?
Right. I mean, I understand. She's got a kind of CYA here, and it just is the way it is in the medical establishment.
Right. And so, I guess I can't blame her at some level. I can't blame her at some level if she legitimately believed it. On the other hand, maybe she was being a little reactionary.
That's the part I kind of wondered too. But I know I have no recourse against her. I mean, this was her. She'll just say this was her really profound feeling that I was going to go out and shoot myself. Right.
Anyway,
I just thought you'd get a kick out of it. Now, I am trying to get my, I have a little 5-shot 30, Smith & Wesson 5-shot 36, Model 36 stashed in the knapsack. Like I say, I've been carrying it for years and years and years in there. It wasn't even in my possession at the time. It was just sort of sitting over. And I suppose they'll justify that as, search incident to arrest.
Right.
Correct? So anyway, I'm being given a runaround. Oh, the officer's in training. You got to call him. Well, now the chief's gone, and he's the only one that can. You get what I'm getting at here.
Right.
They're giving me the runaround about getting this thing back. Am I ever going to see this pistol back?
I would think you would. I would think you would.
No, they were. On the day, I said, well, how do I get this back, while I'm handcuffed? And he says, oh, geez, boy, the chief might want to make you get a warrant from a judge and blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying, even a magistrate can't order this thing to be given back. And I'm thinking they can give this back anytime they want.
Yeah, I think they're stalling you.
So what's their problem?
Well, the last time I had this happen, we ended up in a whole hearing, and the judge ordered the return of the gun, but then it turned out that there was actually a 302 put in place, and so now we've got more complications to get the gun back. So we'd have to find out hopefully there was no 302 ever actually issued.
As far as I know, I mean, if someone came down to me and said there and says, we are not signing the 302.
Right.
And so as far as I know, there is no 302 out there. Now, that's another thing. Is this thing actually out there floating in the ether waiting to come back and bite me in the butt?
It might be. It might be.
They did put a bunch of papers in front of me and says, well, do you want us to notify your doctor? Do you want to notify the cardiologist? And I said, do I have to sign these? And they said, no, you don't have to sign them. But, of course, they were all nicely typed up and everything. They're just missing my signature.
Well, let me know if you can't get the gun back. I'd be happy to start by talking with the police and seeing what they want to do. And if we can't, we can get an order from a judge. That's pretty simple. As long as you weren't 302. If you were 302, we may still be able to undo that and expunge it, but there'll be a little bit different fight. I got to go break, my friend. Take care.
Okay, I appreciate your information.
All right, bye. Oh, welcome back. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. I think, Jason, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Carl?
Good. Were you holding for a long time?
Not really.
Okay, good. What's going on?
I have a tenant that got a little behind on her rent, and she is looking to go to the county for some assistance. And they want me to provide a taxpayer identification number, or a TIN.
Uh-huh.
And it's a W-9 form. I'm just wondering, number one, I don't think I have a TIN, and number two, do I need one being the renter?
So you're the renter or the landlord?
I am the landlord.
Okay. They're looking for a TIN. Well, if you're self-employed or you're not a business entity other than that, then your taxpayer identification number is your Social Security number.
Okay.
So that's what they're looking for.
Okay, so it seems like they're just verifying that I'm the owner of the house, and like I said, she's a little behind on her rent, and she's looking for county assistance. But I wasn't sure I wanted to give them, that information out.
Right.
So government gets enough information.
Yeah. Well, you know the feeling, right? But
yes.
Well, got to do what you got to do. So think about it.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, boss. Take care.
We'll see you.
540-0580. Trina. What's going on, Trina?
Hi. If two people have bought undeveloped property together and it's never been developed,
okay,
and in the meantime I pay it off, but before it's paid off, the other ex-spouse files bankruptcy, do they lose rights to that land?
All right. We start from scratch.
Okay, bought undeveloped land.
Bought undeveloped land from somebody.
Right.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we got divorced.
Okay.
And I've continued to make the payments.
When you say you bought it, was there a deed in place?
Yes.
So they sold it to you?
No, they did not.
Okay.
It was never divided after the divorce.
Well, I'm not clear on this. Okay, so this land that they had, How did they sell it to you?
We both bought it.
Okay.
We bought land together, got divorced.
Okay,
The land is still undeveloped.
So the two of you own an undeveloped piece of land, and you got divorced but never mentioned the property in the divorce.
Correct.
Then you guys just own it like you and I own it.
Right.
Tenants in common.
Right. But they filed bankruptcy in the meantime before it was paid off.
They did.
Yes.
So now you're solely responsible for it.
Correct. Do
Okay.
they lose rights to that land?
It depends what happened in the bankruptcy.
Okay. Is there a certain, since there is no dwelling on the land, is there a certain chapter they would had to have filed to protect them?
I don't know how they would have filed their bankruptcy. That's what I mean. And sometimes if they do a Chapter 7, it's a total liquidation, okay?
Right.
If you do a Chapter 13, you can keep things.
Right.
So I don't know how they would have done it.
Okay, and so I'd have to find out which chapter they filed.
Right.
Okay. I actually have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
If I continue to pay the land taxes, is there an amount of time where they have contributed no money towards those taxes that they would also relinquish any rights?
No, nobody's relinquishing rights, okay? Until the rights have actually been extinguished. So if they don't pay the taxes, they just owe you for those.
Oh, okay.
So you probably have to go to a partition action. You probably need, this sounds like something we need to sit down with and look at to find out exactly what happened in the bankruptcy.
Right.
And if they truly relinquished it in the bankruptcy, of course, you didn't file a claim in the bankruptcy, I assume.
No, because I didn't know about it.
Right. So you weren't noticed on it. So that's interesting. So who's paying on the property now?
I am, and
Okay.
now it's been paid off.
Right. So to a certain extent, you may own the property free and clear, or you may owe some money, some portion of it back to that other person. That's something we could settle up in a partition action or a quiet title action.
Okay.
All right.
And then the Chapter 11, that's the one where they. Which one is which?
Well, 13 is a reorg. Like a Chapter 11 is sort of like a business reorganization. Individuals and small businesses usually do 13s and 7s.
Okay, so if they would have filed 13, would that?
I don't know what they did in their bankruptcy. I know that the answer. I know what answer you want. Okay.
Yeah.
You want me to say you own the property free and clear, and you can do whatever you want with it, and you don't have to deal with it. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
That's what you want me to
Yeah.
say. Well, guess what? I can't say it, sister. All I can tell you is this. You got to get down with a lawyer and map out exactly what happened. It may cost you a little money. And you may have to file a legal action to extinguish any rights they may have left.
Okay.
And they may be owed some value on it, but then again, maybe they're not. But it's not an easy answer, and you can't just sit around and hope that their rights are extinguished, because now when you go, you can't sell that property.
Right.
And you can't sell that property because his name's still on the deed.
Right.
So until we fix that, which is either to get a waiver from him or a quick claim from him, or a judge's order saying that he's not owed anything on it, or a side agreement with him, or whatever we need, you can't do anything with that real estate, and nothing has magically extinguished his interest per se.
Right.
But even if he has given up his interest, you still need to finish it off.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
I'm not being mean. I'm just telling you. I know.
No.
I always like, you're waiting for me to say, yes, we can give you a new liver. And the answer is, now you're still on the waiting list. All right?
Yeah. Well, it would be nice, because when you're the one that makes 99.9% of the payments and the taxes, well,
in a partition action, if he still owns any of it, okay? Say he still owns it 50-50. In a partition action, you get credit for everything you've paid. So what happens is the judge goes, all right, kids, 50-50, but by the way, the young lady spent this much money, so we take that off your side, sir. And if it exceeds your side, then she has it free and clear. If it doesn't exceed his side, then you may still owe him a credit.
Would that also count?
Gotta go. All right. I'll be back. When I get back, we'll answer more legal questions. 540-0580. Carl Rominger here. See you guys in a minute.